Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the State of the SEL, the first in-season State of the SEL of the spring. It is so good to be back. We just had tier assignment happen last weekend. We've got week 1 happening tomorrow on stream with me and TJ. It's so good to be back. Gentlemen, it's TJ and Dylan in the booth or panel, whichever it is, with me as usual. Dylan, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. You know, honestly, I wish I had more food, but that's all right. We can get to that later.
Yeah, you can sit back, relax, and watch Tuesday Night Lights while you munch after
What a great
this show. But TJ, how are you doing?
It's a pleasure, as always. We're super excited to kick off another great SEL season. The stream matches this week have been chosen. We should have some great content to kick things off. And then also, to address the elephant in the room, yes, the bruise on my eye is from RL chat and the SEL server. Things got a little rowdy in there. I did not make it out alive, so there's that.
Oh, no. I mean, that's typically the case with RL chat. We have a lot of bickering that goes on there from time to time. You got to stay out of there, TJ. Stay in the staff chat where it's safe. But I know we are all itching to talk about tier assignment, so we should get into that. And TJ, I want to start with you. Overall, I need your thoughts on tier assignment day, because you were, I think, the lone streamer. I'm sure there were some like player streams, but I know you were the place to be last Wednesday. So what on earth happened? Because I was working.
I mean, we had a incredible time. I think we ended up getting as high as like 72 viewers at one point. So the SEL community, like, they showed up like crazy that night. It was a 6:30 p.m. stream to a midnight. So we clocked in almost 6 hours of SEL conversations and Rocket League. Again, it was such a blast. We had 260 unique viewers that night. So a lot of new fans joined in. A lot of families came in to support their teams. It was awesome. And I really love what the SEL community can do. I also love Fred for giving me access to the SEL overlay to make sure that we could, keep things professional. But no, we had a really good time. I solo casted the first 4 series, and then Mr. Cade and Mr. Shaka himself came and joined me for the back half of the stream. We witnessed not anything too shocking, I would say, other than the UTK orange lost UTD green. That was the most shocking thing. The King going to 5 with Kentucky C was up there. But in terms of the actual live gameplay, the Auburn A and B series, that was the best one of the night, by far. Fairly close series, and then Auburn B kind of murdered their A team once the lights got too bright. So that was easily the craziest moment of the night. But obviously, we've talked about tier assignment. It's a mess no matter how you look at it, and we just got lucky to catch most of it.
Hey, well, anyone that tuned in for tier assignment, I'm expecting that same sort of viewership for the main stream this season. We need the views all season long. If you're playing, you got to put it up on your phone or something. But that's awesome. I'm glad it was a great night. I'm glad Auburn's back in the spotlight. Finally. Seems like Auburn's been in the shadows of the SEL since like season 3. And to have A versus B being one of the highlight matches of tier assignment, A actually making it to tier 1 is a little absurd. And Dylan, I know Kennesaw State didn't have the greatest tier assignment night due to scheduling issues, but how was your experience of the evening?
Well, I mean, not Flitz. So TNT messaged me about 6 hours before the event. Was like, wait, that's tonight? Oh, me and Flitz are gonna go see Wemby play. That's 2 of my players gone. And then Stevie messaged me about 3 hours before. He was like, wait, we're playing tonight? Yeah, I have a lab at 6:30. So then I was like, okay. And then Joel messaged me. He's like, yeah, I got an exam, and that's not even going to end until at least 7:40. I'm like, well, I guess we're not playing. But in turn, we got blessed by the seeding, and we ended up getting an FF win, which then at around like 10, like 10:50. Flitz puts in the chat, is like, yo, I just got home. If we still need to play, I can hop on. I was like, that is a gift. So Florida FSUC got the wrath of me, Shady, and Flitz for a game. And then we ended up making tier 2. But I mean, regardless, it was still interesting to see the results that ended up happening. And I mean, obviously we'll go more into depth in that later. But yeah, I mean, it was a laid back night. I just played Siege instead of playing Rocket League that night.
Well, shout out Florida State C for letting you guys make Tier 2 at the very least, because, I mean, being auto-put in Tier 3 would be a season ender for any team that's unable to make it that night. But, yeah, I'm glad you guys are in Tier 2, at least have a shot at the last chance qualifier and beyond. But let's talk about the standings, because I know we've kind of dropped tidbits here and there. This is what the standings ended up being. So the top 16 are Tier 1. I don't think any of us are surprised at the Cumberland 6-0, the Bruton Parker 5-1. But outside of that, I mean, there are some shocking teams that made Tier 1 because of the tiebreakers that we said would happen. And I mean, TJ, there are a couple names when you look at the top 16 that kind of jump out at you.
Yeah, I gotta hold my tongue pretty heavily, both for the good and for the worse. First of all, let's talk about some positives. Bruton Parker RL Academy and USC, both sides of the spectrum in terms of old and new when it comes to the SEL.
Yep.
Very happy to see Milk back in Tier 1 and also performing almost just as well as the main team. Now, granted, the main team had to play Cumberland, and, that's, a rivalry that will develop, hopefully, for the better, because that series was a sweep. But the Academy team showing that they're here to play. We originally were worried about them because we didn't know if Sid was going to have to play or not. Well, we got good news. Corrupt and Kyler are playing. So that entire team is like 2K level. So we're super excited to see how they do. And then obviously Cats and Company struggled early but ended up clutching up. Had one of the best goal differentials of the entire night. Very happy to see Cats get one last stab at it.
No, he belongs in Tier 1, and with all the chaos, I'm glad to see someone that is fighting for land in their final semester at a classic SEL school, with a shot at the very top teams early on this season. But Dylan, what are you looking at with the Tier 1 schools?
I will also hold my tongue for now.
Okay.
We'll maybe get to some hot takes later, but I do want to give credit to Texas Tech. I remember we played them in the Queen City Clash qualifiers, and then I was like, hold on a second, this team's kind of comp, and I saw them sign up for the SEL, and I'm like, I could very much see them making Tier 1, and I didn't think a lot of people were talking about them going into the tier assignment, but seeing them in Tier 1, that's like, kudos to them, like they performed when they needed to. Everybody else, no, that's a lie. Not everybody else. Most people I see in Tier 1 are like, okay, I could definitely see that conversation. I can definitely see them earning that spot. The Bruton Parkers, the James Madisons, the UTAs. I would like also highlight Auburn, like you said earlier, Bepic, seeing Auburn in the spotlight. I've met some of the Auburn guys before. They're super dope, super nice people. We beat them on LAN in 5, but I was like, no, that team could be good. Whenever they're on, they could be good. So just for the most part, pretty good, pretty solid Tier 1.
And I mean, to make Tier 1 at the very least, most teams had to beat at least one other team that was in contention for Tier 1.
Yeah.
Like Auburn got there, beating George Mason. I mean, you look at another team that maybe doesn't quite belong, UT Dallas. Their B team, no, sorry, their B team, yeah. Their B team is in. Both UT Dallas squads are in. And you look at their wins, come up short against South Carolina. Bama B maybe fighting UTK Orange, though. That's a quality win because that's a team that could get going later in the season. And I know Kung's in chat, so he can talk about his run more than I can. But George Mason Academy, this is kind of probably the craziest team that I did not see make, because the A team did not make it. George Mason's A team is in Tier 2. George Mason's B team is in Tier 1, and I mean, TJ, did you get to watch any of them? Tihan was telling me there's an Xbox player on this team, and we have an Xbox player in Tier 1 this season.
We did not get to watch any of George Mason Academy, and I did not know that. So that's super, super interesting. What confused me the most was they didn't have a bad run, don't get me wrong, but I was confused to see how they took a loss to Louisiana Lafayette, Raging Cajuns, and they also took a loss to ETSU, which are two quality losses. But what confuses me was how they ended up getting the spot over Louisiana. So I'm not saying that the talent on this team isn't there. I mean, they did have a solid run. They obviously handled their business where they needed to. And when you look at these other teams who are 4-2 who fell out, you could say the same thing about the George Mason A team.
Yep.
I'm just as happy as the next guy to see Auburn in Tier 1, but George Mason has absolutely no excuse being a top 12 team, even with Titanium and not with that, or with him last season, not with him this season. that loss to Auburn should never ever happen, and it cost them. And then for Louisiana, it was their loss to UTD that cost them. So you could sit here for hours and talk about how this team should be in, this team shouldn't be. Overall, there is some shocking teams who made it, but Tier 1, again, like Dylan said earlier, it's mostly in the right place.
And that was kind of the case last semester as well, where there were 3 or 4 teams that it's like, maybe they shouldn't be here. But at the end of the day, the bottom 4 teams in both groups don't make it automatically into playoffs. And so that's going to get shaken out no matter what, unless someone goes on a run that maybe we weren't expecting to, like an Auburn or a UTD Green, whoever. And then in that case, it's a good thing that they made it to Tier 1. But we'll see. It should all be taken care of in the last chance qualifier. But someone did ask in chat who George Mason lost to, so I'll pull up their results as well. And you can look at the head-to-head results in the standings page of the tier assignment on League OS. And this is George Mason's run. The loss to Auburn definitely did kill them. ETSU, that's not a bad loss at all. And they took care of business elsewhere, but yeah, that series against Auburn isn't great. And so sorry to Tihan and his boys, but I'm happy Auburn's looking good. And we'll go through results now. I want to skip to round 3 really quickly, because the first 3 rounds were like FF City, and there were some crazy best of 3 losses, like King lost to Alabama in game 3 of best of 3. But outside of that, Dylan, did anything catch your eye while you were playing R6?
Honestly, not particularly. So, I mean, with how massive the Swiss stage is, it's kind of hard to pinpoint one match and think specifically like, yo, that was like an eye catcher. I mean, I think the standings themselves speak more result than just individual games. And like you're mentioning, tons of FFs early on. So I can't really give you like a exact match to look at. I don't know. I kind of want to get more into the nitty gritty of, the teams themselves.
All right, fair enough. Then let's quickly go through the rounds. TJ, I know you were streaming it, so do you have any series that maybe were off stream that you haven't mentioned yet that you want to pick out?
Well, I'm glad that Dylan said that he couldn't, because I had a few I was going to very quickly bring up.
Go for it.
First of all, Clemson takes a game off Florida Southern. That was one of the big stories alongside Alabama beating King. Clemson showed that they could be a Tier 1 contender with that win right there, and that also was a massive turning point for Florida Southern that night in terms of actually getting their run moving in the right direction to make Tier 1. Because obviously with Astro, it's hard to tell if that team is ready for the top level of play. But when they handled Clemson the way they did, that was awesome. Texas-Dallas pushed JMU to the limit. That was the, I think, most tested series that we saw JMU have until they saw Cumberland. And then obviously not some Tier 1 related games, but outside of that, there was some pretty solid, fun games. Like, for example, Texas Tech... Actually, no, sorry, that was one of the FFs. UTK Black and Florida C had a battle of C teams, and it went to 3. So that's a really fun one that we kind of were just making jokes at off the screen. And then obviously we're not going to talk about the UTK Orange run while Zach's in chat, but if you look at match 95, I'm just going to leave that there. In round 3, match 95, I'm just going to leave that there.
All right, we'll flash it on screen momentarily out of respect for UAH White, because that is a team that could win a game or two here in Tier 2. We'll see. I don't know much about that roster anymore. They've all gone up to the A team. But getting into the best of 5s, DJ, anything else in the later stages? Feel free to talk about like the rest of the rounds as well, because I know there were a ton of series.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, things were mostly on pace. Like, heading into the first set of best of 5, some of the big kind of heavy hitter games was it was Bruton Parker ETSU. Bruton Parker wins in 4. I can't say that wasn't expected. Bruton Parker Academy loses to Florida Southern. I thought it was going to go to 5. It only went to 4. So that was, again, mostly expected. And then we saw the infamous Chan monitor get broken when they sold to Clemson. I really, really don't understand how Alabama lost that game, especially after they had just beaten King, and they turn around and they lose in 4 to Clemson. And then, obviously, King had their unfortunate second loss to UTD. A rough pull from them. And then looking at the other rounds, Louisiana Lafayette showed that they can compete. They took a game off of UTD in round 5. I will stand on this point. I seriously believe that if Louisiana would have just registered on time, they would have gone 5-1. But I think because they had to play Cumberland in the very first game, it screwed them and it cost them their tier 1 spot. But you know, outside of that, nothing too crazy. GMU Auburn in round 5 goes to 5 and Auburn wins. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
That was one of the craziest series of the night. And then on the topic of crazy series, round 6 delivered too. We get 2 heater tier 1 matchups with Texas Tech and UTD going to 5. Texas Tech, a team that I originally did not have in the top 8 of tier 1 or the top 12 seeds really, and they upset me easily going and taking it to UTD. Bruton Parker Academy shows they're just as good as your school's varsity program, and they beat UTA. So Texas having a pretty rough night outside of Texas Tech. And then obviously there was some unfortunate draws. Like for example, Kentucky was 4-1, and they drew Bruton Parker. I think Kentucky was contenders to maybe get a lucky matchup and go 5-1. But they kind of got screwed over. Alabama wipes the floor with ETSU.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about consistency in the state of Alabama? We've already made this joke 1,000 times. That Alabama team still confuses me to this day. Because you lose to Clemson, you beat King, and then you murder ETSU. So, I don't know. Those were the big, major matchups. There wasn't anything else, like, crazy that I noticed. Auburn Orange had a chance to still make Tier 1, and then they lost to FAU. They could have gone 5-1, especially after beating their A team. But, you know, FAU, a team that they've had some time to regain since Hammy Crackers. They should be strong contenders. And we are going to get to talk about them in a bit as well when we talk about Tier 2. So I think that's the DJTJ 6-hour stream recap for the most part. But yeah, those best of 5s, they delivered for sure.
I do want to talk about the ETSU Alabama series, actually just Alabama in general for a moment. Chan punching his monitor after losing to Clemson and Alabama still going 5-1 that night is so Alabama to me. That was their only loss of the evening, and Chan still punches his monitor after losing that. I mean, I know that's how Chan is, but still, that's hilarious to me. When I saw that, I hadn't seen the results yet, and I was like, oh no, Alabama went 2-4 or something like that. But no, they went 5-1 and were a shoo-in to Tier 1, which is absurd. Beating ETSU as well, I need to know what happened. I know Skyline's in the booth with me later. I'm going to ask him about this in the green room, unless he's in chat right now. But a 3-0 sweep for Bama against ETSU is absurd. That should not be happening. It should. I could see it going 5 and Alabama winning, but I don't know what ETSU was doing there in round 6. But we've gone through a ton of results. Dylan, I know you've had some time to like look through the series. Do you have any other ones before we move on to the notable results and
Nah, you caught mine. I was gonna mention that Alabama series. I don't know how true this is, but word is that somebody on the ETSU team changed their name and was trying to stroke their ego a little bit, and then Alabama put belt to behind and, you know, showed him who was boss. Yeah. So maybe next time we'll just, keep our names normal, try not to be weird, all right? We can be normal.
That was a collision of two teams that can have big egos. Like I love the idea of East Tennessee State versus Alabama. But okay, let's move on to the groups, because then we can talk about teams more specifically, because we've gone through the notable results and tier assignment, which to the topic of tier assignment and its format, for those watching right now, I know there's critiques about tier assignments, and please put them in a ticket so Fred and I can compile all of the tier assignment critiques and see if we can find the perfect format, because WLM was good, but Swiss a lot of people liked, and then Swiss didn't run smoothly because of all the forfeits, so we're trying to find a good middle ground for Season 6. So if you do have any feedback, please let us know in committees and in tickets and all of that. So shout out Super for the thorough answer. They made a ticket for me and Fred to go through, so we do appreciate stuff like that. But let's talk about groups, boys. TJ, I'm gonna start with you because you drew the groups out of a hat, and
man.
Yeah, go for it. Tier 1.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. We're going to get to Tier 2 and realize what my poor hands have done. But Tier 1, I'm honestly happy with. If I got to hand pick some of the top sides, I would have loved for Florida Southern to have a golden chance at making top 4. I think they get the easier pool in Pool 2 to do that. James Madison and Bruton Parker also head up that group, so that should be a lot of fun. Before I even get into my hot takes, I'll just read through them.
Yeah.
Pool 1, Florida A, Cumberland, Alabama, Bruton Parker Academy. Oklahoma, ETSU, GMU Academy, South Carolina A. A pool that should be extremely top-heavy when it comes to, in my opinion, Cumberland, ETSU, and Florida. And now with the Alabama sweep, you could argue them in there as well. I would even argue that Bruton Parker Academy should be in there as well. So we should have a super, super interesting and intensive top 5 that will, obviously when you get that top 4 spot, it makes a huge difference in how your season and your points and your land chances could go. I know for Cumberland specifically, I was just talking with Polar about that CECC spot. He's aware of the stakes. They're planning on having a good time this year, but they know it's not easy. And for a team like them to say that, things are seeded well, at least by the luck of the hat. Then with Pool 2, Florida Southern, James Madison, Texas Tech, Bruton Parker, UTD-C team, which is UTD Green, UTAA, which is this varsity team, and then Auburn Navy as well. So again, a fairly top-heavy group, but it's a lot easier in terms of top-heavy. I think James Madison and Bruton Parker are the only guarantees. If you look outside of that, you look at UTA, UTD, Texas Tech, and just for the fun of it, throw Auburn in there.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Who knows what could happen? Unfortunately, the only team I'm counting out right now in that pool is UTD Green.
Oh.
And that, unfortunately, somebody's got to be at the bottom. But either way, again, a pool, that when you're looking at the 3, 4, and 5 seed should still be a lot of fun to watch.
I am glad that your hat kept the tradition of separating the top 2 teams in either pool. Because I think it was Bruton Parker and UTK both were separated in Tier 1 last fall as well. Same for Cumberland and Bruton Parker. So I am happy that that did happen. But Dylan, what are your thoughts looking at these groups?
My thoughts. Oh, goodness. Well, there are a few outliers.
Sure.
And I'll be the one to say it.
Do it.
UTD Green, George Mason Academy, and Oklahoma. Those are 3. Those names kind of stick out like sore thumbs. Auburn Navy is almost on that cusp. I have faith in them, but those main 3 that I just mentioned, that's interesting because I would almost guarantee there are probably 3 other teams that could take their spot. But obviously that's how the Swiss stage went, the tier assignment went. There's nothing we can do about it. However, I think, if you want to take some of the top heavy teams that are in tier 2 right now and say, hey, you're going to sit through a best of 7 with the bottom of, tier 1, I think we could, see a couple of teams punch up. But regardless, the fact is that they're here and now they have a new mission in mind. It's like, okay, guys, we're in this spot. How do we make the most of it? Because being in tier 1 will always guarantee you that LCQ spot. And obviously you want to have a higher seed going into LCQ or even avoid LCQ altogether. So trying to get as many wins as possible while you're in this tier 1 stage, where that way you can maybe pull a weaker first round or 2 while you're in LCQ, or like I mentioned, avoid it altogether with maybe imagine a crazy world where UTD Green upsets their A team to make top 4 in group 2 somehow or another, right? And like some madness, right? That would be so SEL-esque, but regardless, they can take advantage of the spot that they're in, and we can kind of only just see what happens.
And I am already in the planning stages of a Tuesday Night Lights where we have the bottom of Tier 1 and the top of Tier 2 kind of punching at each other. So I got to send out those invites soon. But talking about those groups, I think we're all in agreement. I think even some of those teams that did make it to the bottom of Tier 1 would say that maybe they don't belong there. And I can understand the confident facade, but like Oklahoma just started playing with each other like 3 weeks ago. UTD's B team didn't have a great resume getting in. Auburn's always shaky, no matter what their roster is. That has always been who Auburn is. And hey, you get some extra reps in. And that's really the best case scenario. Because even if you're in Tier 2, these teams, they would probably still be beating the cupcake rosters to make it to the last chance qualifier in the first place. So I think that would be the case, no matter what group they're in. Except for maybe one pool in Tier 2 that we will talk about in a bit. And while we are on the topic, group predictions are later on in the show. But I'd like us to do our top 4s now. Since we've got Tier 1 on the mind, I want to know who you guys have as your top 4s in these groups, because those are the ones that get the auto bid to playoffs. And Dylan, do you have your list ready to just share audibly?
Yeah. So
go for it.
Group 1, go ahead and give me Cumberland number 1. Give me Florida number 2. Give me
Wow.
ETSU 3 and give me a crazy Alabama 4.
Okay, Alabama in the 4 spot. You think they grab it over? I mean, who would you be taking out? Bruton Parker
USC
Academy, South
or
Carolina
BBC Academy. Yeah. I wanna have faith in whatever they did, whatever they sacrificed to harness to sweep ETSU. And I just want them. I hope that was a long-term contract and not a one-time usage. But also, I kind of just want to see those boys go crazy because I think it'd be really funny, if I'm being honest. For tier 2, or not tier 2, but for group 2, give me Bruton Parker number 1, James Madison number 2. I think that's fairly easy. Give me Texas Tech 3rd.
Okay.
And give me Florida Southern 4th. Yeah.
All right. TJ, you want to react to that?
Well, I mean, in terms of the top 3s on both sides, I feel like they're mostly locks. So I agree with Dyln. In terms of Pool 1, Cumberland and Florida, super, super easy picks. Again, as somebody who doubted ETSU last season, there's only so much I can talk until the season starts. So for now, they will stay in that 3 spot in Pool 1. The state of Alabama is going to have a rough Tier 1. I don't have Alabama making a top 4. I don't think that's a hot take. I think if you're looking at consistency and overall gameplay, and especially when you're looking at the standards and hours that those 2 programs put in between Bruton Parker B and Alabama, I think Bruton Parker Academy is going to be in a really good spot to hold on to that 4 spot fairly easily. I don't think that Bama or South Carolina are going to be able to really upset really any of those teams. Again, with Dyln and his point about ETSU and Bama, I do think that ETSU is in for an ego check. I don't mind saying that out loud. I'll say that in public. I think that after the finals, I thought we were expecting them to show up to tier assignment and go 5-1. And then luckily they did, but their loss shouldn't have never happened. So either way, I think they're going to be just fine once they settle in and kind of get that mental side of their gameplay all tightened up. And then for Pool 2, I got Bruton Parker JMU. Easy. Texas Tech, a team that before they came into tier assignment, I was not familiar with their ball. They showed out and showed up extremely well. I think they got the 3 spot. And then again, chat's going to hate me. UTD, I don't think they got a chance. I really, really know on paper. I know on paper that UTD can do it. I know they can. But everything that I saw when we watched that team in tier assignment was super shaky, super inconsistent, and super worrying. UTA is a team that's been the standard for Western CRL and now for current CRL for a little bit now. And I know UTD's hot on their tail. I just don't think it's this season.
All right. These are fair, I think, predictions for the top 4s. And talking about seeing Texas Tech play, since we are at the halfway point of the show, I want to advertise Tuesday Night Lights tonight. If you haven't seen the slate, this is it. We're getting an East Carolina versus Texas Tech bout that I, right now, would consider maybe the bottom half of Tier 1 versus definitely the top side of Tier 2. They're taking the 10 p.m. Eastern time slot. And then James Madison, I know they're kind of locks for us right now, at least getting the top 3 of Group 2, but they're taking on Shawnee State tonight. And that, I think, is a great indicator of where they're at as a roster. If they can break into the top 30 and be another one of those SEL teams that represents at the top of the colleague power rankings. But to give my top 4, I think I'm in a similar boat with the locks. I definitely think Cumberland and ETSU are locks in Group 1. Even with ETSU faltering, I think they probably thought they were safe playing Alabama. Okay, they'll go clinch 5-1. It's easy. And then they lose, get in with tiebreakers. But I think they'll lock back in. They've been looking great so far this season. Then BPC Academy in Florida are my next 2. And that's the easy way out. But I could see a world in which we have another South Carolina versus Florida series that maybe shapes how that group shakes out. I know that's week 1, South Carolina versus Florida, but Florida has dominated that matchup. I think it's a Florida, South Carolina 4th and 5th, and that's where I'm sitting for Group 1. Group 2, I think the locks are the same: Bruton Parker, James Madison. I think Florida Southern is a lock after their performance, because I was talking to Soj before that night, and I was like, dude, I don't think you guys are looking very hot right now. And I was like, prove me wrong. And then they went out and proved me wrong. He hit me with the receipts after tier assignment. So I think Florida Southern have a lot to prove, and I think they'll be able to play against good teams well once the season gets going. My fourth is UT Arlington. They look really good recently, and I watched them on the Nightlights Invitational Tournament. They beat Wichita State. They beat George Mason. Those are pretty good wins recently. They've beaten San Diego State, which we'll talk about them outside of State of the SEL, but still, UC Arlington look really good right now. And yeah, there's not much controversy with these groups, which is kind of crazy in Tier 1. We're used to controversy here.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I mean, last year it was definitely like there was some fire in the Tier 1, but regardless, it was still entertaining. Ended up panning out. I'm pretty sure how most people expected it to, aside from a few little bit of glue drying up in a couple of teams and other things of that nature. But regardless, still entertaining.
All right, let me get Tier 2 up on screen for us, and we'll talk about that. And TJ, you're gonna get to start again because you did the hat drawing. But,
I apologize.
What did you do for Group 3? Because all the other groups look fairly normal, and then you look at Group 3 with KSU, George Mason, Alabama B is a good team, Louisiana, South Carolina B, UCF. What?
Yeah.
UTK?
So let's just say that I dabble in a little bit of dark magic. I dabble in a tad bit. I'm a big fan of the Curse of Ra. Normally we used to use it against Bruton Parker, and now we've somehow managed to use it across 5 teams in Pool 3. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. I can't tell you how that happened. The hat has nothing in it. It's not a weighted or a different sized hat. All the pieces of paper were the same size. In terms of what I could have done to make things fair, I truly think that there was some higher being who just wanted Pool 3 to be Pool 3. So on that note, we can talk about very briefly the other pools, and then obviously Pool 3 will take out the majority.
Yeah.
Pool 1, King, ECU, that's it. Everybody else, it'll be fairly close. We'll talk about our predictions in a little bit, but that's ECU, King.
Hold on, put some respect on Montevallo. I don't think they're at ECU and King's level, but
come on. What?
I said I don't think they're at that level.
Oh, I thought you said...
No, they are not at that level. I'm not that Alabama biased. But Montevallo is good enough to separate themselves from Texas Tech B, and then UTK's Y and W team, and then South Carolina D. Like, that Montevallo should be separated, at least from the rest of the field.
Okay, I'll give you everybody but Texas Tech red. I unironically think Montevallo and Texas Tech will be close. That's my hot take, I guess.
I don't even know who's on Texas Tech red.
You'll have to go back and look at their results. They had a solid day.
Okay.
They did not have a bad day. And then obviously looking at the rest of the pools, Pool 2, it's just Clemson. It's just Clemson. Mississippi State, B and C team have upset major teams in the SEL and across NECC. I've seen that program do things that nobody expected them to do. So I have MSUB doing well. Arkansas Little Rock, again, a sleeper team. The biggest point of confusion for me in this group is Kentucky B and JMU B. Kentucky B is not the same roster. I don't know if they're going to perform as well as they did last season. And then JMUB, that's a varsity level program, but I don't know a single person on that team. And when your A team is that good in the SEL, normally the B team isn't too far behind, but I'm just not familiar with what they can do. So Pool 2, I think, again, slightly linear. I am going to skip over Pool 3 because we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Pool 4, it's a similar story. It is more contending-ish. It is a tougher group, but the level of play is lower than in Pool 3. There's about 5 teams in this group who I think are going to have great best of 5s who may go to 4 and 5 every single week. Those 5 teams specifically are Kentucky, UGA, FAU, FSU, and UAB. In terms of the order who I think surviving, we can get to that after. But those 5 teams should absolutely murder everybody else, and then they will probably murder each other. I don't know how it's going to look, but Clemson B is a big sleeper in that group, in my opinion. So we'll see. And then Pool 5, some confusing rosters like UTD-B, who did not make it in, but their C team did. So super, super weird dynamics there. And then UAH, brand new roster. I'm excited to see how Space Captain does. I think Auburn Orange, after their performance, has to be the favorites in that pool. And I think I would even say they're going to cruise. I do know that's crazy for me to say, but the only team I see giving them problems is UTDJV. But that Alabama matchup between Huntsville and Auburn Orange should be a great watch as well. Lander Academy is another really interesting team. Kentucky C. These are interesting teams who are below their main teams, who have solid programs, who have good support, but I don't know if they can actually take it and translate it into competitive success. And then obviously Pool 6. I just apologize. This group is cake. That's it. It's cake. And even for a team like NKU, who is Jaden and the new other two who have joined him.
Yeah.
I really, really want to give NKU the benefit of the doubt and say they're going to be just fine in this group. And I do think that is the case. But I also have to be transparent in that I say that I did not put NKU in my power rankings for the top 10 of this group, or of tier 2. So I think they're good. I think they're going to be the top of their seed. They're just going to have to pray that their LCQ seeding is good.
Yeah, I mean, Group 6, I would also say they don't have anybody in the top 10 of Tier 2. Arkansas and NKU are decent. Arkansas, they will go to Game 5 with anybody, but if they're able to win enough of those Game 5s, I think they could also potentially top that group. UAH White is apparently decent, or UTK just sold. I'm not sure which one, actually, but we do have some fun groups if you're a fan of sloppy, like GC2, GC3 Collegiate Rocket League, which I am. We watched UGA and Clemson play each other on Monday Night Lights last week. That was a fun slugfest of a series, and that Group 4 I am such a fan of. I'll go back to the group with it being FAU, Florida State, UAB, UGA, Kentucky, and then UTK. I think that's D. I just got to shout them out because these are big names of SEL. Like, they're not heavy hitters anymore, but these are all schools that were big names in the SEL at one point. So the SEL nerd in me really loves Group 4. And Dylan, we'll talk about Pool 3 in a second, but out of the other 5, so we can give them some love, do you have any of them that really stick out?
Honestly, TJ kind of ate up a storm. He kind of he took out every single opinion I could possibly conjure up. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, regardless, he put it into words perfectly. Group 6 might be the mickiest thing I have ever seen. And the fact that you did this, you, TJ Stevens, you did it. That's on you. You sold us. Anyways,
game is game. Game is game.
Yeah, I can't argue with RNG. It's just tragic. Yeah, regardless, just to double back. Mm-hmm. We will put a little bit of respect on Montevallo's name.
Thank you.
Not too much, but there's definitely
a dab of sauce.
There's okay. You can't sit here and be like Montevallo isn't like a gatekeeper team for like the lower half of tier 2. Like if you put like Montevallo against like the lower half of tier 2, they'll probably win. But when it comes to like punching up to like the higher seeded teams in here, they're probably not going to be as successful. But like they're not that bad. Like you're not UTKZ, they're not, they're not USA, I don't know. You get the idea. But regardless, put a little respect on Montevallo's name, specifically NK2, little grinder.
Yes.
Little shout out. But yeah, overall, TJ put it into words perfectly for me for everything except Group 3. Can we talk about Group 3? Is that on the itinerary?
I left it for you, Dylan.
All right, TJ.
I left it for you. Have fun.
George Mason A, Kennesaw B, Central Florida B, Alabama B.
Whoa, wait a minute. Keep in mind, Central Florida B went 2-4. All right, keep going.
Yeah, I know. I'm just reading, man. Did I already mention ECU Gold? I'm gonna say it again anyways. ECU Gold, Alabama B, Louisiana Lafayette, South Carolina B, and then UTK. TJ, I want you to know, I audibly screamed when you pulled our name out of that hat. Because we're like, me and Caden, me and Chuck, we're just chilling. And we're like, oh, tune in. TJ's doing the hat pull. And I'm like, oh, shoot, let me go see what's going on. And I see this group and I'm like, I sure would hate to pull Group 3. And then I see TJ pull the paper out of his hat and look at it and go, Kennesaw B. And I was like, this just can't be.
Were you the last pull? Was that the order?
They were the 6th pull in that group.
Yeah, we were like,
okay. Yeah. It's still bad at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about ourselves too much.
Point. Yeah.
But regardless, this is probably the most stacked group or tier 2 we'll ever see. obviously George Mason's A team, who was still extremely solid with Titanium taking a step back. Kennesaw B having 2 rank A players and this guy. Like UCF B team, still very solid team overall. Like you can't discount them at all. Louisiana, like they are a great team that could have punched up to tier 1. Like you mentioned, if they signed up on time, they probably would have got a better seed and going into it and probably could have gone 5-1. And then UTK Orange, obviously we know that is a very strong punch up type of team. They're grinders, they're locked in, and they're trying to kind of show everybody that they are a tier 1 worthy team. And you just threw all of us into one pool. Like, I think the only way this could have been worse is if you put King in here instead of like maybe South Carolina's team or like I don't know. But this group is going to be outrageous throughout the season. It's I don't know. I can't even. I mean, I'll give predictions, but you know, realistically, it could go anywhere.
4. Who do you think does make it out?
Well, I'm biased, so I'm gonna put ourselves as first.
Okay, yeah.
And then George Mason right behind us, and then Louisiana third, and then UTK fourth. But it's not going to be top 4 in the way that there's a definitive. I think that there's gonna be like 2 or 3 teams with very similar game records, and it's just gonna come down to like minor things like game diff or like goal diff even. Like that's gonna be a tight group.
It will have a couple stream matches from that group for sure. TJ, are you about to say something?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2 things for the general public of the SEL. One, RNG is RNG, and I hate that it worked out this way, but I would be lying if I didn't step back here and say that I think that pool was created that way for a reason. And I might be the only person in the league with this take. I unironically, and I'm going to stand on this and I'll explain it, those 5 teams contending for Pool 3, I would unironically say deserve to be there. And this is why. So let me explain my hot take.
Go for it.
Dyln, you guys get the biggest exception because you cannot control TNT going to see Wemby. That's tech. That's fair. So for him going to see Wemby, I can't blame you guys for getting in this group. But when I look at every other team here, I'm going to say they deserve it. Louisiana is the biggest team with no exception. They did not register in time.
Yeah.
That is crazy. If they would have just registered an hour before or a few hours before the deadline, whatever it took compared to the next day, they would be fine. They probably wouldn't even be in tier 2. And then obviously George Mason, I made this point in the RL chat argument that got my eye bruised. I made this point already. George Mason and UTK have absolutely no excuses. They lost to teams they had no business losing to. George Mason with Auburn, UTK with UTD Green, especially after taking that UTD A team all the way to 3 in a best of 3 with an overtime as well. Or sorry, I believe they actually lost in 2, but with 2 overtimes. Either way, they just straight up, they did it themselves. I really, really think that the Pool 3 reactions are overreactions, but I would even say that this is a pretty obvious top 4, which I know the UCF family is going to hate me for that, but UCF lost to teams much, much, much worse than almost every single team in this pool. So I think by rank average, it is the best pool, and I can see people saying it's competitive, but I have to make the general objective point that I think the top 4 is super obvious. And I can get my rankings too.
I understand the reasoning for saying they belong there, but you have to think as well, the top 4, the order of that group is going to matter because it's going to put that 4th place team against a tier 1 team in a best of or a single elim last chance qualifier. And so seeding really matters here, and it's an absolute bloodbath to maybe not get the top 4, but within the top 4, absolutely. And yeah. I think UCF could maybe pull some upsets. I don't think that 4th spot is set. And South Carolina B has always been one of those teams that just plays weird. And I know it's not the same roster. I think it's just T-Man from the old South Carolina Garnet roster. But still, there's something that just follows those B teams and their colors throughout their SEL experience. And, I mean, we've got our top 4s. I think it's going to be Louisiana, KSU, George Mason, easy top 3. And then UTK makes me wonder sometimes.
Don't say it.
No, I'll go Tennessee. I think they make that 4th spot. I think it ends up being just a normal ranking, like what we all would have expected the top 8 would be. But it carries a lot of weight going into the season. So those are our predictions for Group 3. And also, Alima B, I want to shout them out because Solution... Okay, I believe Solution's still on that team. Let me make sure before I say something stupid. No, okay, and Solution's not there anymore. But Champ World and Arduous Water are players that you will never hear about unless you have a caster that's in the state of Alabama. But those guys can win big games. They're just like their A team, where they could upset somebody, but they're definitely still in the bottom 4 of their group. But another good point was made in the Twitch chat that the 5th place team in that group has a great shot at winning the Rising Star playoffs, which I think is cool. I think they deserve a run like that. So Dyln, you guys could throw and go play the Rising Star playoffs.
Now, why would I do that?
You could be winners of the Rising Star playoffs. Inaugural Rising Star playoffs.
Look, man, I still firmly believe that we can go deep into playoffs. Okay, I have to keep that mentality up, so that way we can continue to have goals, continue to have levels. And if I subject myself to only shooting for the Rising Star, I don't want to be a rising. I want to be the star, but skipping a few steps. You know, I don't want to do the Rising Star tournament. That's no disrespect to the Rising Star tournament. It's actually got a very good purpose, and I do look forward to actually seeing how that unfolds. I just don't want to end up there because I know we could do better.
Okay, fair enough. I guess you can win the regular SEL playoffs instead. But
right? Wouldn't that be so awesome?
I am eager to show off the Rising Stars this season. That's a fun initiative that I don't want to get swept under the rug later into the season. But we are running out of time, so we need to give our group predictions for these Tier 2 groups. So way it's going to work, we're going to go one group at a time, go around with the 3 of us, say our top 4, and then react a little bit. I don't think any of this will get too controversial, except maybe for some 4th place slots, maybe some first place slots.
Wait till pool 3 and 4.
Well, we just did pool 3, but pool 4, that actually could get crazy. So let's
didn't ask me for mine yet.
Oh, I didn't?
Ooh,
okay,
true.
Nope, we can wait.
We can save it. We can save it. We'll save it.
In that case, let's start with group 1. I'm going to start. I think it's fairly easy. It's going to be King, then ECU, then Montevallo, then Texas Tech's B team, just based on TJ's recommendation. TJ, what's yours?
That's mine. That's
okay.
it.
Dylan?
That's also mine. Great work. Great work, Pepe. Beautiful.
Look at this. Teamwork up here. Let's start group 2 then. Dylan, go for it.
Give me that Mississippi State team.
First?
Give me Kentucky.
Okay, in order.
No. I'm not doing orders. Okay. I'm not doing orders. I can't do that.
TJ and I will order.
Give me Kentucky B, Mississippi State B, James Madison B, and Clemson.
Okay, no faith in your KSU C team?
What?
Some faith.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, let me get my boys instead of Mississippi, low key.
Okay, so recap the top 4 again.
Kennesaw, James Madison, Clemson, Kentucky.
Okay, that's a good shout. TJ, how about you?
In order, I have Clemson A.
Yeah.
Maybe dropping a singular game or 2 to Kentucky B. I think it's the only team that's going to give them problems. And then I got Mississippi State B. Then I got Kentucky B. And then give me Arkansas Little Rock.
Ooh, you
it's
think
a
they
good
make it
shout.
out of there? Yeah.
I think they got it. That team's got potential.
They were, I believe, 5th in their group. No, maybe they did make last chance qualifier in the fall. I'm going to check on that. But
I don't believe they did, but they had a solid tier assignment run.
Okay, well, I'm in a similar boat. I watched them. Let's see, Huntington played them in like one of the ECAC or Play Flies, one of those, and they are decent. So I think Clemson is absolutely the top team in that group. I like to think Kentucky B is as good as they were in the fall, even with the roster changes. So I'm going to say they make a run to 2nd because they surprised in the fall. I think they do it again in the spring. And then I'll go, this is where I really don't know, but Arkansas Little Rock 3rd and Kennesaw State C because I love Kennesaw State. That's my top 4. All right. Group 3. TJ, you want to save that for last? You want to do it now?
Let's save it for last. We're gonna have some discussion.
Okay. In that case, let's go to group 6 and say ours there. TJ, I'll let you start there.
You said we're doing group 6 first?
Group 6 now, yeah.
All right, yeah, this is, man, NKU dropping maybe a game or 2, similar to Clemson, and then give me both UARC teams back-to-back, and then give me UAHB.
And okay, hold on a second. Liquipedia might be off because they're saying the main. No, why is it called? That's Arkansas Little Rock that we're talking about, not UARK. Both UARK teams.
UARK is the actual big University of Arkansas.
Yeah.
SEC.
So also interesting facts. They were also in the same group, Arkansas A and Arkansas B, they're in the same group in the fall, and they're now in the same group in the spring as well. So I don't know why they are so locked up together. But talking top fours, Dyln, go ahead as well.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, you can pick NKU and then you can flip a coin and pick every other team, but I actually do want to put some little respect on the University of Arkansas. So give me NKU, then give me Arkansas. Am I a bad person to say literally anybody else?
Not really.
I do think that it's fairly obvious. I do think UAHB and UARK
I was just going to say it would be
the 3 and the 4 spot. I think everybody else is screwed.
Two, right? Yeah. I do think it'd be those two, but I also think that anything can happen. If that group is cupcake served with a nice candle on top. I don't know.
All right, hold on. You're disrespecting my Auburn C team here.
Oh,
guys.
All right, Bepic.
These guys will take some names in Group 6. It's wide open for them. They've got freshman phenom Spectral. He used to go to Athens High School. I watched him play at the high school level for ages. He knows how to win, except against Bob Jones. But no one can beat Bob Jones in the state of Alabama. Sometimes not even the collegiate teams. Yeah, shout out Fish. But I think Auburn C is a solid number 4 team. I think NKU wins the group, Arkansas comes in second, then UAH White is third, and Auburn C sneaks in with that 4th spot. And I'm not biased in saying that. I'm putting my professional reputation on the line with that Auburn C team. So,
see you in Cabo.
We'll see you in Cabo. It's been real, man. I hope you enjoyed it.
They better win. They better win is all I'm saying. I believe in them. But let's keep talking about Auburn. Move to Group 5. Auburn Orange is going to win that group. I think they come in first place. Which KSU team is that? The D team. Dyln, are they any good? Are they any good?
I will refrain from commenting.
All right, so Auburn's going to win that group. UAH is second. Oh, after that, I'm not sure. TJ, you go next.
Y'all didn't do your research, man. Come on. This group's easy. Okay, without a sliver of doubt in my mind, I might join you in Cabo, put my career on the line here. But I got Auburn, UAH, UTDJV, absolute locks, without a question in my mind. Now, that 4th spot, I think I spent 20 minutes looking at the teams and deciding. I think I'm very, very confident in Lander Academy. Again, I think when you look at those GC2-ish teams, mental is all that you can ask for. Lander, a program that I've gotten to talk with in detail, love that group of people. They do a great job at building what they've built so far. I think that academy roster is under the right people, under the right coaches, and by that time in the season when they play a UTDJV or a UAH, they might even mess around and end up 3rd. I don't know, but I think they're easily the 4th in Pool 5.
Dyln, are you in the same boat as me, where you didn't do your research for these lower tier, tier 2 teams?
I mean, I know UAH, so I'm inclined to give them the spot.
Yeah.
I'm also inclined to give UT Dallas B the spot because, that's still the B team and their C team made tier 1, so it's kind of like, if they could make tier 1, then sure that they can make top 4, right? Beyond that, I'm gonna trust your Auburn bias and give Auburn Orange the 3rd spot.
That is a good team. I've been told Auburn A and Auburn B are right here at the same level, which we obviously saw with them playing each other and Auburn B winning.
Yeah, Auburn Orange can win that group easily, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, I'll give them that respect. I'll give them that spot. Or honestly, I'm saying that spot, but like they're very much interchangeable. I feel like I just think that they are locks for top 3, and then I'm gonna roll with TJ's research on Lander. I've heard good things about Lander, A and B team, and I'm just gonna roll with that.
All right, we are running out of time, so we're gonna have to go through Group 4 a little quick here. And TJ, I know your boys are in here in UGA, so go ahead, you first with the top 4.
I hate that we're running out of time because this is a group that we could talk about just like Pool 3.
Yeah,
this is easily the second hardest group.
We will in the future.
Yeah, it's easily the second hardest group, but I think in order it will be. And I know some results happen in tier assignments, so I'll explain if I need to. But give me Kentucky, give me UGA, give me FAU, give me Florida State. That is my top 4 in Pool 4.
All right, Dylan, how about you?
Kentucky, Georgia, FAU, and I just remember getting harassed by Clemson purple, and I'm wondering if they're gonna bring that same fire.
I don't think they can beat UAB or FSU. I don't even think it's close.
Whoa.
I don't know, man. Beans is low-key the best player in the world whenever he needs to be. He might. Nah, I won't. I'll say. Yeah, I'll do Kentucky. I'll do Georgia. I'll do FAU. Yeah, I'll give it to FSU.
Okay, Clemson B is actually decent. Like, Darth Pepe is a potential A-team player. Beans is solid. I don't know DVS, or Devious, however you say it. But I think like that's a top 4 team. I'm sorry, UGA. I don't think you guys are top 4 here. I think it's Kentucky, FAU, then probably Clemson and Florida State, or Florida State then Clemson as a toss-up 3rd and 4th. Like, I know it's close, but UGA did not look good against the Clemson A team, and I know the Clemson B team is close in skill level to that A team roster.
Yeah, I see chat too. I can't lie. I know FSU did beat UGA. I know they did beat UGA fairly soundly. I agree with chat there, which is why I still have FSU making it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I got an insider scoop because I work with these guys every week. I know that there's other programs who don't have any coaching of any kind. I believe that would be the case of FAU and FSU.
Mm-hmm.
So I think over time, UGA will become better. They will be able to contend. I know I'm going to eat my words probably this Wednesday when Kentucky and UGA play, and maybe it's a sweep, and who knows, but I'm willing to stick with that. And I know Darth Pepe. I love those guys. Clemson's fun. But again, I go with FAU and FSU before I go with them.
FAU is fair. FSU, I don't know about. They still got to prove themselves for me. But FAU does look good
Everybody
right now.
in this group. Yeah.
FAU looks good right now.
FSU has really big shoes to fill. So
yeah, they will always have to live with the shadow of that former Florida State team over them. Like, years down the road, we're still be talking about Fries, Luigi, and Tricks. It's crazy.
Hey, don't forget Lance.
Forget Lance. Yep.
Okay, Coach Lance. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Group 3, TJ, you created this abomination, so you get to close out the show by saying who your top 4 are.
I'm about to make it worse. Let's start a dialogue.
Okay.
TJ?
Kennesaw State B at 1. Easy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Louisiana at B, or at the second spot, I mean. Easy.
Fair.
Now, give me UTK, then GMU.
Wow.
Yep, give me UTK over GMU.
All right. No, it's fair. That's not that ridiculous.
No, that's not.
give me Knoxville. Give me them.
Because that's a team that has a lot of potential with the coaching they're getting, the
man.
experience they're trying to give them, the motivation that I know Kung has to be a top player in the SEL, at least keep on the legacy that Joe Bro and Shaka paved for him. That makes sense. I don't think that's a crazy, like, outside pick. Dylan, what do you think?
No, I'm completely fine with that because he put us in number 1. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. No, I definitely agree. I definitely think, honestly, the 3-4 spot is, like, low-key interchangeable between George Mason and UTK. I'm remembering, just how darn consistent Louisiana is. Like, they are a really solid team.
They've only gotten better, too. They've
really only gotten better. Right, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but... Yeah, no, I'm comfortable putting ourselves first because we have Shady, and Shady owns Louisiana. So we should be fine.
He might own the state.
He might own the whole state. In theory. But no, regardless, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. Unless you want to maybe put Central Florida into that upset conversation.
I almost did. I got to be honest. I almost gave UCF the benefit of the doubt and put them over GMU, but I cannot imagine.
Whoa.
I can't see. Now you're understanding where I was. When I was sitting down about it a few hours ago, I was like, okay, I cannot see GMU not making it into LCQ after last season. So I gave them benefit of the doubt, but I could see UCF giving them a scare. I could see it.
I could definitely see that, like a Game 5 kind of qual match type of situation. I could totally see that.
Late in the season, oh buddy,
yeah, like literally last week. Like, oh man, that'd be bonkers.
All right. Well, I gotta cut us off. Name a better combo than State of the SEL and running overtime than State of the SEL and running overtime. But to advertise, Tuesday Night Lights coming up in 1 minute. We got GVSU taking on FIU. Non-SEL teams, I know, but still should be a solid match. Then James Madison trying to prove why they are a top 25 collegiate team right now, playing Shawnee State in a best-of-7 show match in a primetime slot. And then ECU versus Texas Tech. Tier 1 versus Tier 2 to see if it was a fraudulent tier assignment or not. That's what's coming up on Tuesday Night Lights. TJ and Dylan, thank you guys for joining me as usual on State of the SEL. Tune in, Esports SEL on Twitch and YouTube tomorrow at 7 and 8 Central. We got Auburn versus Florida Southern as our Tier 1 matchup and Kentucky versus Georgia as our Tier 2 matchup to kick off Season 5's Spring Split. I can't believe we're finally back. It feels so good to see it. Say it. But thank you all for watching. State of the SEL